Okay, so we're going to look at chapter 14 and 15, and we're looking at late adulthood, physical, cognitive, and psychosocial development. So late adulthood refers to about age 65 and older, talking about kind of retirement and older. When we're talking about this age group, sometimes it's useful to break down this group into different categories. You have the young old, who's 65 to maybe 74. Really what you're referring to when you use the term young old are those that are healthy and active. Old is maybe over age 75, and when you're talking about those individuals who are frail or very sick, not able to get around very well, you might refer to them as the oldest old. So we have young old and oldest old. All right, when we're talking about aging, I want to point out that there are different types of aging. There's primary aging that happens to everybody. It's that gradual, inevitable process of bodily deterioration. Then you also have secondary aging. Whenever I see secondary aging, I kind of think of Ozzy Osbourne and how he just, partied hard. He did a lot of drugs. He was really rough on his body, and that's secondary aging. It's that aging process that results from disease and bodily abuse and disuse, and it could have been preventable. So he looks like and has a functioning of maybe somebody who's closer to 90, and rather than, I don't know, maybe he's in his 60s, something like that, because of the secondary aging, because of his bodily disuse and abuse. All right, let's go down and look at physical development. Again, like in the past videos, I'm really going to only hit on some major points. So make sure that you read through this whole outline very carefully, because I'm only going to point out some things. All right. Life expectancy is the statistical likelihood of a length of life. What you need to know, what statistics are showing, is that Hispanic females tend to live the longest. You have white Americans in the middle, and you have African American men having the shortest life expectancy. All right. So Hispanic females have the longest, and African American men have the shortest at this time. We've talked about this before in past chapters, that health and longevity, like how long you live, are closely linked to education and socioeconomic status. So how much money do you have, how much education, and there's a link to health and longevity. Some of that might have to do with access to healthcare. All right, we're going to look at the different theories for why people age. You have the genetic programming theories that say that that your body ages in accordance with a normal developmental pattern that's built into every organism, that it's in our genes. Aging is programmed into our genes, and it's going to happen because it's part of our body's instruction. So then you have another theory. You have the variable rate theory. This is more of the wear and tear theory that explains that aging is a result that can really vary from person to person, that is influenced by both internal stuff, your genes, but also your external environment. Sometimes it's called the air theory or wear and tear theory. So if you tend to not take care of yourself, there's a lot of wear, you put a lot of wear on your body, a lot of wear and tear, you're going to age faster. So the genetic programming says it's in your genes, it's biology, whereas your variable rate theories tend to say that environment plays a role. So there are all sorts of different theories, so make sure that you read through that. All right, so what are some physical changes that are occurring in late adulthood? You see some volume and weight loss in about 10% by age 90. This results in a slowing of responses. This brain loss is due to shrinking neuron sizes, as well as a loss of axons and dendrites and synapses. So all those different parts that play a role in communication. So brain loss is not because we are seeing a loss in the number of neurons. That is not the reason. We are not seeing a decrease in the number of neurons. We're seeing a decrease in the axons and the dendrites and the synapses, all these different parts of neurons that help with communication. What other physical changes are happening? So there's a decrease in sensory abilities. I mentioned this in middle adulthood, that older people, especially men, often have trouble hearing high-frequency sounds. I talked about my uncle having a difficult time hearing my voice because it's very high frequency. You also see, because of a decrease in senses and abilities with, eyesight and depth perception, you see that older adults tend to be more susceptible to accidents and falls because of slower reflexes, because they have a decrease in muscle strength, and because of a loss of eyesight, depth perception, and so on. So you see these, they're more prone to accidents, more prone to falls because of these declines. So sexual functioning in late adulthood, really the major barrier to an active sex life for older women is a lack of a partner. Women tend to outlive men. Men have a shorter life expectancy. So it's really a lack of available men that can, older men, that is the reason why older women maybe are not having as much sex as they would like. So older U.S. women outnumber older men nearly 3 to 2, and the gap gets larger as their age goes up. All right, let's look at physical and mental health. Many adults in late adulthood have chronic conditions. So 80% of those that are 85 and older have at least one chronic condition. But most of the time, these chronic conditions do not limit the activities and interfere with daily life. You don't start seeing that until more of that older or oldest old. All right, let's look at mental health during late adulthood. So depression is often underdiagnosed in older adulthood because it can be mistaken for dementia, or maybe seen as just a normal part of aging, or maybe the older adult is experiencing physical illness, so their depression is masked by this physical illness. So depression, it tends to go underdiagnosed in older adults. Let's look at cognitive development in late adulthood. So practical and integrative thinking actually tends to improve throughout most of adult life, but some abilities like speed of mental processes may decline with age, and that probably has something to do with the loss of dendrites and axons and synapses. All right, so memory, how does that change? Well, sensory memory tends to sensory memory as well as semantic memory, which refers to remembering facts, and procedural memory, or like that muscle memory, how to, let's say, drive or how to ride a bike, those muscle memory type things. They appear nearly as efficient in older adults as in younger adults. Where you start seeing less efficiency in late adulthood is the capacity of the working memory. So what you're processing at any given moment, and episodic memory, like remembering events and experiences, like forgetting maybe somebody's birthday or what they did the day before. All right, so working memory and episodic memory, remembering events and experiences, those tend to be less efficient in late adulthood. All right, so let's look at psychosocial development. Anytime I talk about psychosocial development, you should think of Erikson. We are now in the last stage of Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, and this is the ego integrity versus despair. All right, so during late adulthood, People are doing a life review. They are reviewing their life, thinking back, and they're trying to come to the conclusion of whether or not that they have lived a life of integrity. Have they lived a life that they can be proud of? Have they done all that they want to do? Or are they fearing or dreading death? Do they have this despair? And when they find that balance between ego, integrity, and despair, they achieve the virtue of wisdom in late adulthood, having lived a life without regrets. So Erickson said that older adults really need to maintain a vital involvement in society. As they're going and doing this life review, it's also important to keep, being involved in society, keep being generous to the next generation, and being involved in relationships. All right, so emotionality tends to become more positive and less negative in old age. Those in late adulthood tend to be less depressed, more content and satisfied. Now, it may change as you get into the oldest old when you're dealing with loss of spouse and you're dealing with a lot of illness. But overall, you tend to see more positive emotions in late adulthood. All right, let's go down and look at George Valent, who found that the use of mature adaptive defenses earlier in adulthood can predict psychosocial adjustment in late life. So if in early adulthood, middle adulthood, you're very altruistic, doing well for others, used a lot of humor, suppression. Suppression is like keeping, negative emotions down. Anticipation, planning for the future, as well as sublimation, which is redirecting negative emotions into positive pursuits. If you use these when you were in young adulthood, middle adulthood, then you tend to have better psychosocial adjustment in later life. All right. So religion can play an important role in late adulthood. Religion can be a type of emotional focused coping. So adults, younger adults, middle-aged adults tend to use more problem focused coping for problems, strategies directed towards eliminating, managing, or improving stressful situations. Older adults tend to use more of emotional focused coping, controlling negative or unpleasant emotions, or using avoidance or denial. And this can be really helpful when dealing with ambiguous loss, maybe loss of a loved one, things of that sort. Maybe they might look to religion and say, hey, it's all part of a grand, the grand plan, what's meant to be is meant to be. So, you see late adults in late adulthood will look to emotions more so than trying to maybe come up with a solution to a problem. More likely to be trying to figure out a way to be okay with the problem, find a way to be able to deal with it, to be at peace with the problem. Different theories for successful aging. You have the disengagement that says that you should disengage. You should, as your health declines, you should withdraw from social activity. This theory has little social support. Activity theory says remain active. Other theories say you need a balance. You need a balance between what you can do and what you maybe you can't do because of your declining ability. So read through this and the different theories. All right, what's the difference between younger workers and older workers? Older workers tend to be more productive, more dependable, but not necessarily faster. Read through the retirement and what makes for a healthy retirement and satisfaction in retirement. Read about Social Security and Medicaid, how they've helped older adults live more comfortably. Most older adults are living alone and they prefer this. This is called aging in place. And also read through this area about desirable nursing homes. They should not be very hospital-like. Socio-emotional selectivity theory, we talked about that in the past. Make sure you read through that. Marriages in late adulthood tend to be relatively satisfying. And then never married adults are less likely to be lonely than divorced or widowed ones. Why? Because they're used to being independent. They have been independent throughout their lives. All right, read through all that, and that should... Oh, watch the videos as well. Make sure to go through and watch all the videos and hit on the links to the videos on the other outline.